Celtic are back in action against Hibs for the second time in 7 days, this time in League Cup action, as Brendan Rodgers and his side face the Easter Road team at Celtic Park on Sunday. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. This is Tino with a countdown to kickoff, joined here for this one again by Brydo. Brydo, welcome back to the show. What's your initial thoughts ahead of the big kickoff?
Good afternoon, mate. Yeah, again, just looking forward to it. But we look like we've kind of kicked on really early doors, and hopefully that we get the same level of intensity that we've seen for the majority of games so far. Maybe not for the full 90 minutes in some of the games, but we're building up towards that, I think. And I don't think Hibs will be looking forward to coming to Celtic Park on Sunday when we are in full flow. I don't know, some of the injuries and stuff, perhaps some players might not be available, but I think we've got enough in the tank to take on a new look Hibs team. And kind of wee flashes last week that looked okay, but we were far too strong for them, and I just hope that, and I fully anticipate and expect that to be the case this weekend.
Yeah, agreed. In terms of the injuries, we'll get to that in just a bit, but I think the main news just now, Brydo, and I'm sure most fans have caught headlines or WhatsApp messages or whatever else, it's Brendan Rodgers, and it's how he responded in the press conference to the question about the tick allocation. So obviously that's been the big news over the last day or two now. Everyone will know the headlines, but basically Rangers have been unable to guarantee Celtic fans' safety for the return fixture in January, and therefore Celtic, quite rightly, I think, have pulled the plug on their allocation. There's a few interesting quotes from Brendan Rodgers, so I'll read them out to you, and then I'll come to you for your thoughts. So first of all, he says, it's not complicated. Celtic have played their part. This is not a Celtic and Rangers thing. This is a Rangers thing. And he was really quite pointed about it, and actually it was good to see. There's a comment that's come in from Mazar, and I think he's spot on. It's box office Brendan Rodgers, but he's also right. He's not just grandstanding. He's absolutely correct, in my opinion, in terms of what he's saying. What do you think about it yourself?
Yeah, I've been saying it for as long as it's been an issue. It's not ever been... Celtic and Rangers, at times get bundled together, and it's like to anyone not in either party, it's like a package thing, and they want to, Sky, for example, want to keep calling it the old firm and make this thing, and that then means that if one's doing something bad, it's the other one's involved in that. This hasn't been like that. Celtic didn't want it. We know from chats with people over the years now that Celtic never wanted this, and they've tried very hard to not have that because they've seen the bigger picture. Rangers needed the money at the start. They had to get the money up front from their season tickets, and that's all it's down to. And then what's happened this time round is that Rangers at this minute in time, and it's probably admittedly from their own fans as well, are an absolute shambles. It's either they're unable to run it properly, or they're not willing to do the right things properly. And quite clearly, either way, doesn't matter. The result's the same. It's inept at best, and they're not even in their own stadium because of their inability to run a football club. It just shouldn't happen. So it's no surprise to me that they have again reneged on an agreement. It's so simple. Brendan Rodgers is 100% correct. It's two football teams, businesses, whatever, people. They've made an agreement with a kind of mediator in between to say, okay, we'll all go away and we'll all do that. The irony is, it's the Celtic physio who's got like lifelong scars on his face and his head. It's the Celtic players that have been assaulted. It's the Celtic goalkeeper's goal mouth that was filled with, a smashed bucket bottle. It's like, but yet it's our club that seem to be the ones that are pushing forward the health and safety, the nets and all that. And it's all been agreed. And they've just simply, either they've not got the money to do it, or they've just not been willing to do it. And Celtic are 100% right. If they're not good enough in their word, then why should we trust them on their word that they'll get it done between now and January? And I wouldn't trust them at all. They can't even get their own club properly. So Celtic are 100% right in doing that.
Absolutely spot on. And I was looking at some comments on Twitter over the last day or so, and there was some Rangers fans arguing amongst themselves. And one guy, the voice of reason, whoever he may be, said, we don't even trust our own board, as in the Rangers board. How could we expect Celtic to trust them? They have just shown themselves to be incapable on a variety of issues, and I think Celtic couldn't take the risk that they wouldn't be able to reciprocate come January. So I think it's a right call from the club, and I think Brendan Rodgers, who so often at this time is the spokesman for Celtic, he's absolutely spot on in terms of what he's saying. But either just before we kick on, a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us on the live, guys like Maestro95, P. McLaughlin, Gypsy King, good friend of the show, Paul Hogan, Henrik McLarson, not sure it's his real name, Brydo, and various other folks. So thanks as always for joining us. If you've got any questions or comments for myself and Brydo, let us know between now and the end of the recording. We'll be here for about 30 minutes in total. So please do let us know, and we'll do our best to get around any questions that do come in. Keeping in mind, you can also become a member of our YouTube channel. Details on how to do that are on our page. And you can also support us throughout the season at the celticexchange.supercast.com. Brydo, let's get to playing matters. Obviously, Hibs the opponents for the second time in quick succession. How is that for a player? How do you think that is? Obviously, we kind of took care of them. It was pretty comfy. I know it was 2-0 in the end up, but pretty comfy last week at Easter Road, particularly first half. Some really good stuff from Celtic. How do the players feel as they approach the same opponent second time around?
Yeah, me and my brother were talking about this last week because he seemed to think that it's an advantage for like the smaller team, if you like. I don't think as a player you're overly thinking it. I think the manager will just set the stall out. Both teams will have an advantage from knowing, so for example, we now know some of the new Hibs players that we didn't know before. And we've not changed much, to be fair, but their manager can maybe use what happened last week and that kind of short memory, if you like, and say, right, okay, this is what happened on Saturday, don't do it again this weekend type. So it may be easier for them to organise, but I don't think as a player they're going to be thinking a great deal about it other than just keep being professional and following the words of the manager. And whether it's the same 11 that starts or not will remain to be seen. But I just think Celtic are in this rhythm at the minute. I don't think anything will, certainly not Hibs, I don't think will jolt that, especially at Celtic Park.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of availability, then let's get to that. So the updates from Brendan Rodgers. I think Alistair Johnson was feeling something, but he's going to be okay. Kyogo's 50-50, and that's why I've pitched this in the title for this episode, that Adam Idah could be set to make his first start on his comeback, and I think there's a big possibility of that. Mikey Johnson remains out. That's a concussion type thing, and I don't know if the writing's on the wall for Mikey. Brendan was asked about his general situation, and Rodgers said he's open on the situation, and at this age, Mikey Johnson will want to play football. I think you can read between the lines that if the right offer comes in, he'll be away. The other update that we never got was Louis Palmer. He missed the last game after the ankle knock he took towards the end of the Kelly game on match day 1. But I think the update last week was 10 days or so. So I wouldn't expect that we'll see Louis Palmer as well. But let's just go from back to front as always. I was going to say Kasper Schmeichel in goals. Not so clear, actually. We've got Sinna Solo, who's come in, showing some good stuff. We've heard lots of good things about him. Is this the perfect opportunity to give him his first start?
No, not for me. Not for me. I know some of you boys were saying maybe give some of the younger ones a game and stuff like that. No, I think I just like the fact that we're on a kind of... Schmeichel's new to the club as well. He's new to the players as well, and I think they just need to keep building that relationship between goalkeeper and back four. And I think I would just keep it the same. I don't think I would change it, mate, to be honest. That doesn't mean to say he's not going to change it, because this young goalkeeper's meant to be trying to learn the ropes from Schmeichel. But in order to do that, he needs a chance now. So he may well do it, but for me, I wouldn't. I would certainly keep the strongest team going, and to keep that momentum going that we've built so far.
I mean, you just shot me down in flames, Brydo. I'd built it up. I was talking about his talent, his potential, but not for you, and that's fine. That's fair enough. And I think, as well as it's a decent opportunity to play the youngster, Kasper Schmeichel's only a couple of games into his Celtic career, and I wonder if you're far better placed at this time, giving him some consistency and some game time so that he's good to go for the big games over the next few weeks. So let's go with Kasper in goals. Before you tell me your back four, as a general, do you think there's scope to tweak things slightly, though, whether it's maybe given, I don't know, a Tony Ralston game time? Someone in the comments I'll get back to has mentioned potentially Matthew Anderson at left back, for example. What do you think? Do you think we'll go strongest back four, or any wee tweaks in there?
I mean, if it was like a midweek game or something after a heavy game at the weekend, I would say, yeah, okay, let's tweak it. But it's not been, the full week to lead up to it. The only one I would really think about would be the left back situation, because if we need to throw, let's say something happens to Greg Taylor through the week and we've got to throw him a left back in, well, we don't have anybody other than the young guys. So perhaps something like that. 1 or 2 changes and an 11 is all right. It's just when teams start making 6 and 7 changes, I think that becomes a problem. I'm never one for wanting to change the back four that often. But you make a good point about, obviously, the young goalkeeper, the young player. Like, I think it's important that they're going to find some time somewhere. And maybe at home against a team that we've kind of dominated away from home, perhaps that will be the time for 1 or 2 of those. If Johnson has got an injury, Ralston, we all know Ralston, there's nothing surprising about Tony Ralston. He'll come in and do a job, and he'll give us a 7 out of 10 performance, I think. So no issue with that. If there's an issue with Johnson's injury, and the young boy at left back, perhaps at some point in the game, he could come in for Taylor, because we do need to be looking at that situation, even if it's the next couple of weeks before the window closes. So
what is your starting back four then?
My starting back four would be, I'd probably say Ralston if there's a slight injury to Johnson, and then I'd play Scales, Carter Vickers and Taylor ahead of Schmeichel, obviously.
Okay. Getting into midfield, I think there's no doubt at this moment in time who Celtic's strongest three are. It's Callum McGregor, it's Rio Hatate and it's Matt O'Reilly, and that's been the case for some time. The O'Reilly stuff, I don't know if it's updates as such. There's a further bid, or maybe even a further 2 bids have come in for him from Atalanta. The suggestion is they've been distracted. Now, whether that's a tactic or not, but they're maybe looking elsewhere. I don't know if that's to try and force Celtic's hand. I'd really like to hope, Brydo, that Celtic are pretty relaxed about the Matt O'Reilly situation, i.e. if he goes, he goes, and if he stays, he stays. And I'm very comfortable. I think most fans would be comfortable if we don't sell him in any sort of rush this window. If the right offer doesn't come in, sit tight and enjoy Matt O'Reilly for the 8 Champions League games and whatever else comes of it. And those moves should still materialise come January or even this time next summer. What do you think? I suppose the main thing and the important thing is the player has shown a great attitude. And if he's picked for Sunday, he'll do his thing as usual.
Yeah, I think 99% of the fans would be of the same opinion as you there. I think Matt O'Reilly kind of comes across like quite a calm, relaxed figure. A kind of deep thinking guy, I think, actually. But I don't think he would ever want to tarnish anything that he's built at Celtic by downing tools or not performing. I've seen in the first 2 games that he's been very good. The pre-season games, he was excellent as well. It looks like he's kind of getting to that peak fitness for him. And he puts a power of work in as well as having the quality. And I don't think that would change no matter who's come in for him. So, no, I would fully expect O'Reilly to be starting at the weekend. You're right, if the right bid comes in for any of our players, then Celtic, and I think as a group of fans, I think we are very understanding in that aspect. I think when deals come in for players and we're like, do you know what, we can't say no to that, I think we're more than accepting of that. It's just when we feel like it's only going one way and it's going out and there's nothing of the quality coming back, which is a really difficult job to do, but we just maybe feel we're not doing it well enough at times. So, yeah, I think it will be those 3 in the middle of the park. And I think if O'Reilly was to go, which I still think he probably will, you're right, enjoy him while he's there. It might be the last game we see him at Celtic Park because the window's closing pretty fast. So, yeah, I think O'Reilly, I don't think he'll be there. But I also think that Celtic will invest in quality to replace him. But some people have a different view. Some people think we won't buy anybody, which is a bit mental. But yeah.
And there's a few names down the rounds. Is it Engels was the chat, the lad at Augsburg in Germany over the last few days. But we need to see Celtic must have a plan B, a contingency, if they do sell O'Reilly. And the timing of the whole thing could be very important there, because it might well be that O'Reilly goes in the last day or 2 of the window. And at that point, you then have time to get the right guys in. Anyway, separate chat for a separate recording, Brydo. Let's move further upfield. So Adam Idah is obviously man of the moment. Signed back on at Celtic permanently during the week there. I'll just bring up a comment. So Thomas Milligan asks, our thoughts on the way the traditional or the mainstream media were questioning Idah yesterday. I was at the press conference, but obviously I'm there from a fan media point of view, and they're done separately. So the mainstream get to ask their questions first, and then we get our chance beyond that. I didn't catch too much of note, Brydo, in terms of the mainstream stuff. In terms of, I don't think they were trying to trip him up. I didn't see or hear anything particularly snidey. Actually, it's relatively bland, with all respect, in terms of what they ask him. Were you excited to get this done? When did you hear about the move? What's your ambitions while you're here? And that's all fine. It's all straightforward stuff. From our point of view, he was a very decent guy, and he was clearly very excited to be here. He's never had these allegiances in terms of how he feels about Celtic, and he was talking about the folks back home and how proud and excited they were for him to get his move. And I think he can't wait to get started. Brendan Rodgers was asked about the fee, and he says he's already paid that fee back with what he done last year, but they'll be worth every penny. What do you think about it? I think it's 8.5 million, potentially rising to 9.5. What's your thoughts overall on the deal?
I think, first of all, attributes-wise, I think he suits the way the manager plays. I think he is also a different option to what we've got already. So Kyogo and Idah are very different players, and we've seen that in that short spell when Idah was there. The Motherwell away game, Kilmarnock away when we won the league, got over the line. Even coming on as well in games and helping us change the game or win the game. So to me, I don't think he's replaced. I don't think Idah's repaid 9.5 million back yet, to be fair, but I've got no doubts that he will. I like the idea of having two very different options. All too often, teams will sign players of a similar ilk, if you like, and that's where the Miovski-Idah chat would go down. And I thought, well, if we're keeping Kyogo, then Miovski's not really the one for me, although I think he's a really good player. Idah would be the one all day and all night for me. He's went from being a Norwich reject to people demanding the club just spend 10 million on him or whatever. He's done that overnight, which I don't know if that says more about Celtic's business or the opinion of the fans at times. But yeah, I think, and we all want some, kind of one of your own type player, and he talks about being a fan of Celtic, and we'll take him on his word on that. And we believe that. And after he's left, he's made it very clear to Norwich that he wanted to come back. And he's now signed in the dotted line, and he's our player. So what we've seen from him is attributes, and the difference for that position suits the manager's style, as well as I think he comes across like quite a confident but fairly calm guy. I think he'll fit in absolutely perfectly to Celtic and the way of Celtic and the pressures. He's not scared to take a penalty under pressure. That one at Easter Road, the game we were at, was absolutely awful. I mean, how we got away with 3 points, we'll never know, but we did. And ultimately that then leads us on the charge to win a title. So he's definitely played his part. And I'm sure he'll play his part in bigger games to come, in particular away games in Europe for me. I think it's somebody that holds the ball up and is a threat from cross balls.
Yeah, do you know, the penalty you talk about at Easter Road, I watched that game the other day, and it was in the 96th minute of the game. By the time, it was VAR checked and it came to be 96-minute penalty at 1 each. You're brand new at the club, and you're handed the ball to step up. And I think he's shown he's got that strength of character. Brendan Rodgers, again, quotes from this afternoon. He said he has a big game and big club mentality. And that was something that really encouraged him. And he thinks that Adam Idah can really flourish here over the next 2-3 years. And in 24 months' time, he thinks he'll be worth far more than what Celtic have just paid for him. Question that's come in from Paul Brady. Paul's asked, the money we've paid for Adam Idah, is he now Brendan Rodgers' #1 pick over Kyogo? He was asked that more or less in this afternoon's press conference, and he said, and I know this isn't something that can quite strictly be true, but he said they're both his #1 striker. So he'll pick and choose when to use these guys, and he wanted to make sure he's got two guys of genuine quality when it comes to his striking options. I'd like to have a third. I think it'd be good to have a younger up-and-coming frontman as well, whether through the academy, which seems unlikely, or from elsewhere. But at the moment, Brydo, I think he's pretty happy. He's got two guys to choose from, and he'll pick different players for different games.
Yeah, because that's ultimately what we've been crying out for. So when he says he's got two number 9s, and if, in the comment or the question that was put to us there, is he, because of his price tag, the #1 choice? Well, what it should show us is that we know Kyogo's, to many fans, is the best striker we've had since Henrik Larsson. I mean, if you ask a lot of fans, they'll all say, yeah, he's the best we've had. That's over guys like Edouard and stuff like that, £9 million. So, that was years ago we done that, so the prices of players goes up anyway. But, what it should mean is that we've now got two players of a certain quality that can play. and they also play in a different way, which I think as fans, if it's not working, the manager can change it very, very quickly. And both have shown to score in the biggest moments in the biggest games. So I think we're very, very fortunate. Not fortunate, that's wrong, because we've made our own luck with that. We've went out and got the best players for the best positions. But for me, we're in a very, very, very good position to have those two players as our two strikers. And you're right, a third striker wouldn't be a bad idea either.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, John Curry kind of sums it up with his comment on screen. Brendan will use Idah or Kyogo based on the opposition, horses for courses, and I think that makes perfect sense. What you do have, Brydo, and as we kind of continue to go through the team here, Adam Idah will likely start, I think, particularly if Kyogo's nursing that shoulder injury. And Nicholas Kuhn, who's been great, since pre-season and across the first couple of games, he'll also likely start. Now, I know there's this argument that Celtic, having signed Idah, Bernardo, sorted the goalie situation, you're kind of just as you were in terms of last season. But getting into Europe last season, you didn't have Adam Idah and you didn't have Nicholas Kuhn. And I think having those two guys on board from the start of this campaign could be so effective. And actually, we now know what both of them are capable of. You've had enough time to see them over the last few months of the season. And I think it's exciting getting into Europe with these additional options that we didn't have last time out.
Yeah, because ultimately I think most fans are confident domestic football dominance is there this season. I mean, based on what we're seeing, a lot of that is what we're doing, but it's also down to what our opposition are doing. And I don't think they're doing it very well, and they don't look too great at the minute. So all of us are confident that domestic stuff will be taken care of. However, the European thing is a big, massive. There's more question marks than there is answers. So you're right. I mean, not having them in those games, and I just think it's a real failing from Celtic at certain points that we haven't had those types of players. We've got money sitting in the bank, but nobody on the pitch, or there's certainly not enough options for a manager on the pitch to go and do it. To have Kyogo and O should have been the third striker. Nobody would bother if it was O on, Kyogo, Idah, and O were the three strikers. But it turned out that it was Kyogo and O was the sub, and it wasn't going to be good enough. It was never going to be good enough. And we're like that in other positions. And at the minute, some positions, left back, for example, we've not even got another option, even though we think the left back option we've got isn't good enough. So I think the frustration from fans is, yeah, we're doing okay, and yeah, we're winning trophies. That's not to be sniffed at. It's just that level that we need to get to. For us to get there, we need to pay the money, we need to pay the transfers, we need to pay the wages, and then hope that they stay fit for the biggest games. Otherwise, we struggle. And we noticed that when players were missing. Big players missing. Hatate missed most of the season. We struggled. Carter Vickers misses it. We struggled. We just don't have those replacements. So we need a bit of luck. But at the same time, we need to get rid of some of the garbage that will never, ever impact the team. The fringe players. You need a squad, obviously. But there's too many players that have been there a long time that we know won't impact the team well enough. So get rid of them off the wage bill if we can, and then use that to maybe get less players of better quality in the door. And hopefully that's what happens in most positions.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap up the signing chat for this recording, Rodgers was talking about you could spend 18 million. And I seen that, someone sent me some information and just kind of broke down Celtic signings over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Celtic have spent 22 million plus in the last 3 seasons. So there's no debate about Celtic spending money. We do spend money, but you could question how effectively we spend it. And I think that's what Brendan Rodgers was doing today. He said that you can spend 18 million on 7, 8, 9, excuse me, 2, 3 million pound players, or you can spend it on just 3 players. And ultimately, you could potentially get the same returns because you buy 3 guys, maybe a 9 million, a 3 million, and a 6 million, for example. And we've spent the 9 on Idah, we've spent the 3 on Bernardo. Is there a 6 million player to come? Potentially. And you then get your money back and then some, because you know what you're getting with these guys. There's far less risk. You can trust them to come into your first team. You can trust them to play European football at a high level. And you can trust them probably to increase their value within a couple of seasons. So I think it's interesting to see and hear Brendan Rodgers speak like that. And I think it wasn't a bite back at the board or how the club have dealt with transfers in the last couple of windows, but it does give confidence that he's having far more control and far more say on things just now, which I'm pretty pleased by. Just to finish the lineup, Brydo, I think we agreed on Adam Idah as number 9. And I think Nicholas Kuhn would keep his place out on the right wing. Who comes in on the left? James Forrest obviously played a part at the start of the season. Adam Idah had a knock and he's now fit again. Do you see any debate over who'll start there?
I just think Maida will start. And then I think, you probably rain the subs. I think I'm not going to give him a prediction just yet because I want to keep everybody in suspense, of course, because I get them right every single week. So I think they'll just try and batter Hibs early doors, and Maida is the best person to do that. I still think I still think we need another winger, if I'm being brutally honest as well. I don't think again for Europe, I don't think we've got enough actually. So I think we need another winger of quality to come in, especially on that kind of left hand side. So but I think it was Maida and Kuhn with Idah up top. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not so fussed about a winger. I think we've got reasonable options there. Nicholas Kuhn coming good, since the start of the season, gives a lot of confidence as well. I just think there's bigger priorities, left back, centre half. But as I say, other chat for other days. Let's have a quick look at Hibs. Hibs, of course, have just signed Kwon. The Kwon's there for the season, and of course he can't play on Sunday. I think that's a good move. I think Celtic should make more of this. Loan out your fringe players to the Hibs. Forget Hearts, Aberdeen's, Dundee United's, whatever, and you can keep a close eye on them and see how they adjust in the that environment in Scottish football. Worked well for Ryan Christie, worked well for Chris Ayer and a couple of others. So I think that's a good move, and it'll be interesting to see how he does there. But in terms of Hibs, they didn't bring much to the party in the first half last week, but they did have a go, and I think it's combined with Celtic taking their foot off the gas to an extent across the second half. But any comments on them? Anyone stand out? How you think they'll approach this one, given that it is at Celtic Park and you give us a couple of chances there, we could score a few on the day.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle. I'm going to be honest. Not for the season. I think they're going to struggle at the weekend. I think it's so difficult for a manager who's not really managed. He's managed bit part at that level, but he's now got 9-10 new players. I think the boy Vente was up front against us is no longer there. I think he's been sent out on loan. I maybe sold, but I think it was on loan. But so striker wise, we'll have a different person to be dealing with. But I just think. As far as Hibs are concerned, bringing so many players in, it's going to take a bit of time for them to gel and form in fact, the manager probably won't even know what his best 11 is. But to be fair, they're going to come to Celtic Park and they're going to try and sit and be hard to break down. But I don't think that they're one of the better teams at that. I think defensively they're not great. And we've seen that in the first half at Easter Road. I fully expect Hibs to pretty much... I'd like to think the game will be done by half-time, to be honest.
And on that then, Brydo, it's time to come for your scoreline prediction. There's a few that are in early, and please do over the next few minutes let us know what you think the score will be on Sunday. Maestro's come in, Maestro 95. He's come in with a 4-1 prediction. You've got You'll Never Walk Alone, 188. He's gone for 3-0. But what about yourself, Brydo? You think it could well be done and dusted by half-time. So on that basis, what are you thinking of?
I don't want you to think they're being ridiculous, but I genuinely think it'll be 7-0 or something. I'm not even winding you up. I honestly think that Celtic will absolutely tear them apart, like destroy them. And I think that Hibs defensively are really poor.
Yeah, you say 7-0 or something. Are you nailing it to 7-0?
7-0 nice, 7-0. Yeah.
That's a very James-like prediction. He came out with a few last season, some 6s and 5s and a few things of that nature.
Did he get any right though?
I need to check the tapes for that. But Brendan Rodgers, when he was interviewed last week after the game, and as these things go, the press were trying to get a reaction out of him to Celtic not being ruthless enough and not putting the game to bed. And one thing he said quite sharply is, listen, I'm not going to criticise my players after today. All good, no worries there. But he did concede that they could be more ruthless. And I think that'll be part of the messaging. It is a cup game, so you never know. Hibs could approach it differently. It's a real sticker twist for David Gray because he's new in the job. The last thing you want after a sticky start was that 2 league games, 2 losses. They lost to Celtic Hearts, I think, didn't they, in the League Cup? A couple of bad results already. The last thing you want is a 7-0, but it is very possible. And I actually think for the Hibs, I don't know if there's much they can do. Park the bus if you want. Celtic can still, probe and find those spaces. Come and have a go. Celtic can really pick you off. So I don't know that. I mean, That's a David Gray problem. It's not for us to work out, but I think it is a problem for him all the same. And I do think it'll be a big scoreline. There's Feed the Bears going for 4-0, Smell the Gloves going for 3, Paul Brady 4-0 for him. I think it'll be big too, Brydo. I'm not going to steal your 7-0 thunder, but I'm going to go 5. And it's hard to see Celtic conceding at this moment in time, particularly against the Hibs side, who just look a wee bit powder puff and out of sorts. And as you say, 9-10 new signings taking time to bed in. So I think it's a tall order. Do you know what? It's the last game that David Gray would want. It's just the luck of the draw that's put us together again. But I think it could be a decent scoreline for Celtic. So I'm going to go 5. You'll go 7. And there's a lot of similar scorelines coming in on the chat. Brydo, as we start to wrap this one up, though, what's your final thoughts ahead of Sunday's 3 p.m. kickoff?
Just buzzing to have the games coming thick and fast. And as another week closer to the end of the window, I'm still pretty calm. And I think that Rodgers will have the players primed and ready. I'd imagine we'll see Bernardo maybe throughout the game and stuff like that. It'd be good to see him get on the park and get some minutes as well. And I just think that they're going to get on the park and like I said, blow Hibs away. It's at Celtic Park as well. Like you said, it's an awful kind of place, I think, for David Gray to be taking his team. So I just need to put them to the sword, get it done early, and then get minutes in the legs of the players that perhaps haven't featured as much. And I just think that I feel good factor about the club at the minute, and I can't see it changing on Sunday.
Yeah, do you know, I think as they all are at the moment, it's just another game to look forward to. Celtic are playing particularly well. The off-field contract or signing stuff is a separate thing, but on-field, I think everyone's really enjoying what this Brendan Rodgers side are bringing at the party just now, and I think Sunday's another occasion to go and enjoy that again. Thanks as always to those who join us in the live. A few folks leading the way this afternoon, P. McLaughlin, Maestro and Henrik McLarson. But thanks to everyone who continues to join us here. Remember, you can support us via the CelticExchange.supercast.com throughout the season, and links to anywhere you can support us are in the show notes for this episode. We'll be back on Sunday, so let me think, 3 o'clock kickoff. I don't know, back about 6, 7 o'clock. We'll work that one out. So we'll look forward to seeing you there.